goes out. So I just want to, well, first I want to welcome everybody, and I would like to kindly ask you to either turn your phones off or on silent, whatever you're more comfortable with. And some of you are, maybe it's the first time you've been at events, we welcome you especially. We have some upcoming events. Next Sunday night, Rabbi Moshe Zeldman is going to talk about the code, what's behind it, what's coming forward from it, and what it's all about. It will be exciting. We have a Shabbaton in honor of the Shabbos Project, and we're, I think, like 3/4 full. So we really want everyone to have an opportunity. And who knows, we may throw a few matches on the floor if we have to, but if you sign up first, you get a real bet. Anyway, it's quite affordable. It's like $120. Like, you can't find that anywhere, you know. So anyway, without any further ado, we have Rav Gav tonight. And I do want to say just a quick word about Rav Gav, aside from the fact that he is infamous and famous at the same time. If you've ever been to Eshet Torah for the Essentials programs, which I know you have, and it's a real, it's an uplifting experience to be part of it, and even to drop in later on after you've already, you know, enrolled in B'nai B'rach Yeshiva or seminary. But Rav Gav was actually, can I say this? He wasn't feeling so well recently, and we have a lot to be grateful for. Hashem, who is the Rofeh of all, and it's also free. So not only do we say Baruch Rofeh Cholim, but Rofeh Chinam. You might have to pay the hospital.
It's Chinam, yeah.
Anyway, without any further ado, thank God that we have Rav Gav tonight.
Yeah, that's okay, Shkoyach. How we doing, Larry?
Okay. So.
Cable guy. All right. You just reminded me of something that I don't know if we spoke about here or not, ever, but I'll share with you now. Rev Yashiv, of blessed memory, a great and holy sage, passed away a number of years ago. When I say a number, I mean 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I don't know exactly. Longer than that? Okay, in the past number of years, when he was not doing so well, he was a little bit older, and when I say a little bit older, I mean about 102, I think it was at the time, and he was sick, and he was in a hospital, and at one point he wasn't really conscious, yet all of Klal Yisrael, all the Jewish people are davening for him to get better. Now the question really is, should ask at some point, like, listen, I don't want to be the one to shock you, but he's 102. You know what I mean? Like, how long do you think he's going to live exactly? That every time he gets sick, you just keep praying for him and praying for him and praying for him. Okay, we believe in prayer, but we also know there's something called death. So why are we still davening for him? And what use is Rav Yashiv to us? I mean, it was the Gadol Ador, understand, one of the greatest of the generation and the generations before us, right? But what use is Rav Yashiv of to us? Unconscious in a bed. Is the question understood? Yeah? So this one of my Rebbeim was sitting by, he spoke about this, and he mentioned something along the lines of, I believe it was a Yisrael Salanter. And he said something very interesting. He said like this. When you say Rofei Chinam, he said like this. He said that there's no free lunch. Right? There's no free lunch. Nothing is free. Everything in this life, you have to pay for. Everything. There's nothing that you don't pay for. Nothing. Except nothing. There's nothing you don't. You pay for everything. Now, the only time you wouldn't pay for something is if it's not yours. In other words, it's why should I pay for somebody else's thing? I don't have to pay for somebody else's thing. And I'll give you a mashal. This is a mashal from a friend of mine. I could be remembered. I don't remember what he said. It didn't say it. So, a friend of mine, Marcel Majeski. He said, I don't know where you got it from. Hello. What's that? Thank you. Thank you. You know, I forgot to mention, for those who knew that, if you didn't know, okay, then you're off the hook. If you knew and you davened for me, thank you very much for davening for me. If you knew and you didn't daven for me, okay, but then why are you here now? If you know and you daven for me, for those who are familiar, I'm not going to tell you the whole story because it's 8 days worth, but Baruch Hashem, alhamdulillah, as they say, they meaning those who speak Arabic. Thank the good Lord. Pray, Holy Hashem Kitov. Le'olam Chasta. Thank the good Lord. I was in the ICU, the ICCU, more accurately, the intensive care cardiac unit, for 8 days. Just a couple weeks ago, I got out right before Yom Kippur, a couple days before. Exactly. The miracle of the hospital, you know. 8 crazy saline bags. Anyway, so I was only in the ICCU for 6 days, but I was in the hospital for another 2 days. I had an infection in my blood. I came in septic shock, and then it spread to my heart and to my head. It was bad. But thank the good Lord, there's no side effects, and other than anyway. So Baruch Hashem, thank the good Lord. Oh, I think I was saying, thank the good Lord, thank the good Lord. There's a lot to talk about there, but we'll have to have another shiur for that if we will, which we probably won't. Okay, now. I mean, I don't mean I'm dying. I mean, maybe I'll have another shiur, but it's not on this topic. Maybe it'll be this topic. Thank you for davening for me. So here's the thing: everything costs. Everything costs money. Everything. So what's the mashal? The mashal is a person who goes ahead and he's working for a company, and he goes on a little business trip, and he stays. You know, he flies business because he has to have a bunch of meetings right when he gets there. He stays at a nice hotel, eats at nice restaurants, even buys a suit, comes back after the end of a week or so, brings all the bills and gives it to his employer. His employer looks it over, writes him a check for everything. So another guy working in the office says, "That's brilliant. This guy goes for a week to another city, flies business, eats at restaurants, and he just brings all the bills to him? Do the same thing." So goes ahead, goes out, flies business, suits, restaurants, hotels, and he comes back and he hands it to his employer. He says, "Here you go." And he goes, "Why are you giving this to me?" He goes, "I just want to be reimbursed for all my troubles." He goes, "What troubles?" You know, "Well, my vacation." He goes, "Why would I pay for vacation?" He goes, "Well, you paid for, the other guys." He goes, "What guys did I pay for?" And he points out, he goes, "When did I pay for his vacation?" He goes, "Just a week ago, he went on a thing." He goes, "You fool, that wasn't a vacation. That was a business trip that he went for me. So when he went for me, I paid for it." You understand? Says God, "I put you in this world. I put you in this world, and I have things I want you to do. Anything you do for me, it's on me. I lie. I'll take care of it. Oh, you're doing it for yourself? Well, you're going to have to pay for that. What do you think? Oxygen is free?" You see, it's like, you think about okay, I get the concept when it comes to work, you got to work. No, just right now, we're breathing. You think that's free? Water is free, everything is free. What do you, that all costs. Oh, you're using it for me. Oh, okay, I'll take care of it, I'll lie. But if not, you're going to have to pay. How could we afford such a thing? So we have certain tzaddikim in every generation, hopefully, mitzvah Hashem, that they dedicate their lives completely and totally to serving Hashem. So Hashem says, "Oh, you're doing this for me? Well, you need oxygen to live. So I'm going to put oxygen in the world for you. If there's excess, then whoever takes can take, because it's just, it's extra. But if that tzaddik is no longer here, then what? We got to start paying. So you better be darn straight we're going to pray for that person to make sure that they stay alive. Because as long as they're alive, oxygen is free. When they're not here, everything starts to cost money. So does everybody get this idea? Now, I don't know your background, who you are. What do you say?
So you're saying that we're praying for the Rav for ourselves, not for God, not for him, but really just for ourselves so that we can have oxygen.
I mean, I could be like other Rabbanim and say to you, "No, chas v'shalom." But yeah, that's what I mean. It also is because we want them to get better. And it's also because, I'm not taking that away, the stress here was if the person's not even conscious, why would you continue to pray for them? No, you pray for them to get out of it, right? But we're talking about in terms of what's going to be medically, whatever. We know afilu, What's the lashon? Even if there's a sharp sword, even a person has a sharp knife against his neck, we never stop praying for mercy. It's true. We never stop praying for mercy. And we pray that, Lord, make me hot. It's a different thing, sorry, you should remember that too. But we pray and we say, God, make a miracle. Okay, you can't rely on miracles, no, right? And the person's 102, they're sick as anything, they're falling, and whatever, and he ended up dying from it, right? So what are we doing? At the very least, just for us. Yes. Sorry to be so vain, but not everything has to be so like, oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, I want to live, I don't have to pay for it. I think it's being honest, you know what I'm saying? In other words, like, we don't have to be all fluffy, we could also be real for a little bit, you know? The reality is, yes, I don't have to pay for these type of things. Yes, I want to get better, but there's also this idea. My point of this whole thing is not even to focus on that. The agav point of this, of this thing is to what? It's just to point out that nothing is free. Hello. Nothing. How are you? Nothing is free. That's the point. Yeah. So, YIBONEH Shalom. I hope it was a matnas chinam, you know, in terms of every sense that he helped me in a very serious way. But just be aware of these concepts, and we have to take a look and see what we're doing ourselves.
That's why we were praying for you.
Yeah, gosh. You got the, what was that commercial? You got the right one, baby. Well, you've been drinking Pepsi. Right? Yes, it ain't Diet Pepsi, because the real thing was Diet Pepsi. I'm just Pepsi. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, anyway, so let's get into this a little. I just got a message from a friend of mine. He sent me a quote from Rav Fanger. You know, Rav Fanger is Israeli. He speaks English also, but he gives a lot of talks on Hidabrut in Hebrew. And he has the following. He says, you know that the Teva, the ark, it's literally, Teva means box, right? The box. That, if you'll notice, like everyone has a picture in their head of Noah's Ark to be some sort of whatever. It was actually a box. That's all it was, a box. With a little thing on the top going on over there. How are you, my friend? So, amazing. Yeah. So, Shemu Malchus. Anyway. So you have the box. Now the box, we just read in this last week's parsha, was made up of how many compartments, how many levels? How many levels on the table? 3 levels. What was the bottom one? What was the bottom one for? Garbage, middle one. Animals, top one. Noachs and family. So Rav Fanger asked, he said, I don't understand. Why make it so tzafuf? Why make it so crowded? Thank you. Why make it so crowded? Why doesn't he build a 4th floor? And like he could have him and his wife up there and the family downstairs. Like why only 3 floors?
The penthouse.
And he said very simple. Now you have to live in Yerushalayim to get what I'm about to share. He said, listen, when your downstairs neighbors are a bunch of animals, and the person living on the 1st floor is Zevel, a bunch of garbage, who's going to give you permission to build the 4th floor? You're not going to get permission. But I'm ching. Now, when you go ahead and we're living in a world where we have people that are all around us that we don't exactly get along with, or it seems to be challenging to get along with, so how does one be mekayim the mitzvah, or the pasuk, as we say, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha? You should love your neighbor like you love yourself. Seriously, love my neighbor like I love myself. You know my neighbor. Say, you know, we're talking about, come on. First off, I want to let you know that, again, this is a no fluff shear, so it's going to be a little bit like, yes, I'm doing it for me. And what does v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha actually mean? After the Kamocha, a lot of people have with this mentality of like roses and Hare Krishna or something like that. You know, some sort of whatever. After the Kamocha, if you look at the Rishonim, what's after the Kamocha? What's the Gemara say? What's the Gemara? The famous Gemara with Hillel and the Ger. What does he say? Mad Sane Allah. That right? What is you don't like done to you? What you hate to be done to you? Don't do to somebody else. It doesn't mean go out and buy them roses and I love you. Love. I mean, I'm not negating that. You could do that too. Just be careful with whom and when. But the Torah says the concept of Kamocha, overwhelming majority of it is your money's precious to you. Just like you take care of your possessions, take care of someone else's possessions. In other words, like, be respectful of it. The Mishnah even says, the money of your friend should be beloved to you like your own. A lot of people take that literally and become very jealous. I also very much want their money, right? It's not only mine. That's not what it means. What it means is if you go to someone's house, don't mess it up, right? You borrow someone's stuff, be careful with that. You go ahead and don't do asagas gvul. Don't set up business next door to someone who has the same business. If you're trying to run an organization, don't open another organization next door that's going to just take someone else's. You know, like just don't mess someone else different things. What else the chinuch X brings down? Don't go ahead and mess around with someone else's wife. Just don't take someone else's stuff. That's why it says in Sifra, Amar Rabbi Akiva, Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. V'yohavta l'orecha kamocha. I think Shweki, it's a favorite Shweki. V'yohavta l'orecha kamocha, zeh klal gadol b'Torah. So I believe he's getting it from the Sifra, and the Sifra says, what do you mean zeh klal gadol b'Torah? Klal is what? What's a klal? A klal, a prat. What's a klal? No, that's something else. It's like a kahal. It's a klal. What? A rule, right? A general concept, right? A general idea. You have a klal and a prat. The klal is the more general, prat is more specific. When he says, klal gadol b'Torah, it is a huge general principle. Why? Says the chinuch. It brings down simply because it's connected to so many other things. So many of the ideas, other mitzvahs of don't steal, is connected to v'yafta l'orecha kamocha. It has its own possible, but it's also connected with l'orecha kamocha. Menai fisha, it's also v'yafta l'orecha kamocha. Just be careful. What do you? So let's start with this. How can it be b'kayim mitzvah v'yafta l'orecha kamocha? Well, let's start with at least don't do negative things to that. Right, if we're talking about the positive things, okay, fine. Like here, we should try to get to that level. But before we get to that level, let's at the very least be makayim the concept of not doing negative things to that person. Also, the kavod of your friend should be beloved to you. When you hear them, something happens to them, be happy for them. I heard from a friend of mine a fascinating idea. To be nosei ba'ol v'chavero, which means to carry the burden of someone, of your friend. If someone's going through pain, to feel someone's pain. Is that a challenge?
Yeah.
For sure.
Question mark?
Yeah.
It could be, right?
Sure.
Good. Sure. Could be. Yeah.
Yes.
The answer is that really every one of you, it depends on you. Some of you are like, it's not a challenge, it's my personality. Or others are like, of course it's a challenge. Or it's very difficult. Or it depends who, right? But no simple chaver is not, I wouldn't say it's just like, yeah, simple. Someone's going through something to really feel what they're going through. But I heard something so amazing. That might be hard, but you know what's more difficult? What's even more difficult? Feeling joy for somebody else. Feeling joy. Something good happens to somebody. Are we happy for them? Are we happy? Are we genuinely happy? Or you're thinking, I wish I had that. Yes?
Because only your parent and your rabbi will truly feel joy when you get something, because they can still take credit, like, oh, it's my son, it's my Talmud. That way it's not somebody else apart from them getting something that they don't have.
Interesting. So what you're saying is that the reason why a parent, let's say, assuming a good relationship, which is perhaps challenging to find sometimes, but assuming that's the case, a parent will feel joy in their child's accomplishments because they'll look at it as their own accomplishment. Perhaps that's a little bit the answer of how one can get to the v'yafta l'orecha kamocha. Why do we only look at it as a parent and child? Why aren't we understanding the fact that Klal Yisrael, this isn't just heal the world, make it a better, this is like we're really connected to each other. If anyone remember those commercials in New York back in the day, we're all connected, New York telephone, we're all connected to each other. There's no more wires. It's all wireless now. That's
We're disconnected.
We're pretty much all disconnected. And the truth is, we're not connected at all. And everything's really bad now. But all right, there was a time when we could have been connected. Some of us are super connected to our phones. That's what you're connected to. It's not we're all connected. It's now I'm all connected. Right? So we're not even connected anymore. Okay, but putting that all aside, we realize the fact that Bana Matem Hashem Elokecha means that we're the children of God, that we're all siblings. Okay, that kind of messes things up with incest and whatnot, but I need to say, sorry for that one, you have to edit that or don't, right? But Larry, it's up to you, right? But I'll tell you like this, it's a crazy idea. So let's start with this. At least be able to put up with them. Maybe one day they get to a level and be happy for their joy. Happy, joy, but really feel joy when they're happy. When they experience something positive, to have genuine joy for them. How do we get to such a level? I have no idea. Let me know when you figure it out. Yeah, how do we get to such a level? I could try to suggest, do not, as I mentioned in the past, do not suspect me to living up to the words I'm about to share with you. It's Hashem, one day, I will learn from my words. But let's start with V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. But let me think for a second. Do you put up with yourself ever? Do you put up with yourself? If we can be honest for a second, I apologize for those from Minnesota, because you guys are very nice, actually. But the rest of us, let's be real. We're a bunch of jerks. Okay, fine, not we, I'm sorry, just you guys. No, we're a bunch of jerks.
I love you too. Thank you.
Let's be real. Who do we think about the most? We think about ourselves. And even a parent that thinks about their child more than themselves. Come on, why are you thinking about the child more than yourself, so to speak? It's like you mentioned. You're not thinking of the child more, you're thinking of you. And the fact that the child's in pain, that's causing you pain. So you do it for the child so that you don't have to be in pain. Do you get it? I don't want to take away a mother's feeling of joy that they do so much for the children. You do it for you. Do you put up with yourself?
Or for your legacy.
Right, which is us. You understand? It's a continuance of us, which we're unbelievable how selfish we are. And I think we spoke about it in the last year. I don't remember if we went into it, but the best way to be selfish, is to be selfless. The best way to be selfish is to be selfless. When that parent goes and gives so much of themselves to their child, and they're going above and beyond for their child, that is an act of being selfless. But ultimately, what's the end result? They're doing it for themselves, and they feel a lot better about themselves than if they were to ignore the child and just do it for themselves outright, in an obvious way, then they wouldn't feel so good about themselves. So the best way to be selfish is to be selfless. To do for somebody else.
It's not healthy.
Say it, please.
It's not really healthy. It's like what you call like codependent. It's sort of like, oh, I did this for this one, I did that for that one, but they're negating that they're a B'Tselem Elokim, and they have to, like the whole Lech Lecha thing is all about doing yourself.
Well, if you're talking about like a codependence and someone's enmeshed and such a...
And all they talk about is like...
Right, that's different, because, I mean, it's different. You're correct in what you're saying, but I wasn't focusing on that angle. That's an angle of where a person goes and speaks about, I'm doing for them, and doing for them, and doing for them.
No, even what they think. They think that way.
So I'm
but
saying...
They don't have a self that they're helping.
Right.
They don't know
right.
that they're still responsible for
themselves.
Something.
For themselves.
Or it's good.
Also, yeah. So let's even talk about the person who's not in that state, where they're doing genuinely for the other person. They're doing genuinely, they're not talking about, not even thinking about it, they just like to help. They go above and beyond. Ultimately, how does one really get to such a... So I want to share with you an idea, which I haven't yet put to practice, but I want to give you an idea. One of my chavusas asked me recently, how does one get to... When I was actually in the ICU, and he asked me, how does one get to a level of V'ahavta l'recha kamocha? Because the reason I ended up in the ICU, or this more accurate is ICCU, the intensive care cardiac unit, is because my heart rate dropped very low. My heart rate went very low. Now, a normal heart rate is between 60 and 100, and mine was hovering around 30.
Wow.
So being that it was around 30, when I go to sleep, it would go in the 20s, and then it would wake me up, because, then all the bells go off, so when it hit like 20, it would be like, beep, beep, beep. I'd be like, what'd I win? I got like someone's like, my life, And, my heart was very, very low, so when it was very low, I had a lot of things going on in my body. It affected my blood, it affected my heart, and my head, and the liver. It was making its rounds, and I'm trying to do a little cheshbon nefesh here, just a little evaluation. Now, you got to take medicine, you got to take care of yourself physically, but there's also you got to take care of yourself spiritually. As the Gemara says, what causes the Kotzker? The Kotzker says that there's a custom not to eat nuts during Aseres Yemei Tshuva, because the gematria of egos, which is a nut, is the same gematria as chet, which is sin.
-1.
Say again?
-1.
Chestes. Chet. Chet. So he says, you know what else is gematria chet? Chet. Don't do sins. He said, people get so caught up with like the gematrias and the skulas, like, don't have nuts. I have a better idea. Don't do averos. Like, and if you do, and go to the Ayin Hara person and do that. Let's say not to. Fine, don't eat nuts. Go to that, but do tshuva. What causes death? Famous Gemara. Everybody's dying. The snake comes. You have to get to the water before the snake gets out. The whole thing. If you get bitten. I forget. I'm embarrassed. But okay. One of the Tanaim goes and he goes, where's the snake you're talking about, right? He goes ahead and he puts his foot in the hole and the snake bites his heel and the snake dies. And we say, guns don't kill people. People kill. Right, he goes and says that it's not the snake that kills, it's Avera that kills. Averas kill. Doesn't sound as great in the gun thing, you know what I'm saying? But right, it's a very good. So in which case we have to ask ourselves something. What's causing these things to happen? You're fashvesh from Maisiv. You got to look at your actions. Things happen. They're not random. What's happening? So I'm doing a little cheshbon nefesh in my hospital room. Adasa Haret Sofim, which I'll tell you was excellent. I want you to know, because I hear I was like, why didn't you go to in-care and whatever? Haret Sofim was excellent for what was necessary. So there I am in the ICCU, and I'm in room number 9, and at least in the ICCU it was excellent. I can tell you that much, right? Because there are much less patients, a lot more ratio of like doctors and nurses to patients. That could be one of the reasons. Or one of the nurses, a great guy. This guy comes in the room, Arab guy comes in. He says, "My name is Osama bin Laden." I said, "It must be difficult to travel nowadays." He said, "My name is Osama," whatever. We schmoozed a lot, this guy Osama. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, doing a cheshbon nefesh, and my friend, as comes in, he asks, he's like, we were discussing things, and one of the things came up is, how can you be nosable b'chavero? How does a person get to a level where they can really feel and care for Klal Yisrael and for every person? And I'm thinking, I just finished giving a series of talks, and maybe we spoke about it here, I don't remember anymore, but about the idea of being mavri al midosav. The Gemara says clearly, kol mavri al midosav, mavri al kol pshav. Anybody who, I don't think it means 1 or 2 times, I think it means a person who is a mavri al midosav, someone who makes themselves into, they can forgo, they can forget, they can move on, and they can let things go. Mida connected. Mida says Hashem, if you go ahead and you let go, when someone does something wrong to you, and you let go, I'm going to let go when you do something to me. Pretty good formula, right? You're willing to let go when somebody hurts you or harms you or does something? Says God, I, Mida connected, Mida, measure for measure, I'm going to let it go. So all your averos are, you're clean, you're pure. What happens if you don't let go? This is a discussion I was having the weeks prior to this occurring to me. Just the week before, I gave a series of 5 lectures on this topic about being mavir midosav. What happens to a person who's not mavir midosav? If you're not willing to let it go, Hashem says, I'm not going to let it go either. But you know what happens medically to you when you're not willing or ready to let go of something? What happens medically? What physically happens to a person who doesn't let go? What?
You get stressed.
Stress.
Disease.
There you go. That's right. Dis-ease, otherwise known as disease. Pretty much, it's amazing to think, a doctor goes to medical school for how many years, you come in there, you're like, not feeling so good, I don't know what's going on. And he's like, you gotta relax. You got a lot of stress. Like, oh, thank you, doctor. Thank you for your medical experience. But is he wrong?
It's a mistake.
What's a
Mistake also. It's like a mistake. You're taking something that it's like, you don't need, you know what I mean?
That's right, that's right.
It's messed up.
Now I'm thinking of
Mistake.
chocolate. Anyway, so it's like, yeah, it is. It's a mistake. But is the doctor right or wrong? The answer is, overwhelming majority of diseases come from eating bad foods. But another disease comes from stress. People get stressed, they get angry, they hold on to things, hold grudges, whatever it is, it releases cortisol in the body in an excess amount, it starts to permeate throughout the different limbs and parts of our body, which then affects our brain, and the neurotransmitters start to connect in ways that they shouldn't, and it sets up a person to be more depressed personality. It's amazing what happens. And I'm there, I'm thinking like, wow, I have a lot of issues with my heart here. What's going on? Maybe I'm not such a mafia mitosa. And I started to think, you know what I think? This is what I suggested. I said, you know what I think? How you can get to a point to really let things go and be mafia mitosa and to be no sebo v'chavero. It's where you say to the person, listen, I'm upset with you and I want to be angry. But the truth is, I can't. I love you too much. There's just no room for it. I have too much love for you that I don't have enough room. I want to be angry, don't get me wrong. I hate you. And I would love to get to a point where I can express that, but I also love you so much. That's what we call the real love-hate relationship, otherwise known as children, as a spouse. And you look at your closest relationships, they are that. The closest relationships we have are love-hate relationships. On the one hand, you have this deep love for the person, and then they do something like, I can't stand that you just, like, why do you always do that? But I love you. Happy anniversary. It's just like, oh, what's going on here? Do you love them, do you hate them? The answer is both. And now Lee Shore brings us down in page 34, the first chalik. Quoting Rabbeinu Tam, 35. Quoting Rabbeinu Tam, the Sefer Yasher. Whenever somebody enters into his heart a level of love, that same amount of hatred enters in theory. And it can bounce back and forth. And that's what you see. I hope I'm not touching anyone here emotionally, and apologize for this, I am, but you take a look at what two people are in the greatest love ever, and then a person goes through a divorce, and it's the biggest enemies ever. How did that happen? The answer is, the greater your love for someone, the greater the potential to hate for them. That's powerful what I just said. But it exists. It's always got to be very careful about it. But when you could focus so much on love, say, I'd love to hate you, I would love to hate you. It's just, I have so much love, and it's just, I can't. I'm sick. I'm going to get sick. I can't do it. If we would stop and actually think of somebody as a sibling, the problem is we don't necessarily like our siblings. But if you did like your sibling, and we were able to stop for a moment and realize that, hey, they're just like me. And it gets even deeper when you get into the Gemara in Kedushin, Kol HaPosel, Mumo Kol Pasul. Is this Sephardi shul or Ashkenaz? Ashkenaz? B'mumo Kol Pasul. Anyone who disqualifies someone, you're disqualifying them with your own disqualification. We see the faults and flaws of other people that are nearest and dearest to us. Which means if you really have a problem with someone, guess who you really have a problem with?
Yourself.
A problem with yourself. But guess what? You get along with yourself just fine. Because you're willing to overlook that because of how much you love yourself. So why don't we do that for somebody else? You don't have to look too far. It's to really get the formula. I say you, we do not have to look too far to really understand the formula of how to love someone. Just focus on the positive and not the negative. Rav Noah Weinberg of blessed memory used to often play the love game and do a little exercise about love. Say, if you have to love your neighbor, love yourself. What does it mean to love somebody? What's the definition of love? So, even if you heard it, you could be that guy. What's the definition of love?
Forgive.
Well, that's cute. That's sticky. But I don't believe that's the definition of love. I believe that's what will bring love. That will bring you to love. When you give, it will bring you to love. But that's not love. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, but love can be a verb. No?
I don't want to get personal here, but in theory.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, but I
in a
just...
sense, how they, is it like a
love setting them free. The setting them free might mean just let them do the negative things that you don't like without making a big case about it.
Okay, but tell me, my friend, maybe you'll do that when you love someone, but what is love? You know what's amazing? I love when one brings up Reb Dessler because I think it's such an opportunity to actually understand it. You see, the concept's nice, but do you ever stop and think about, like, wait a minute, that's not love, that's what brings you to, so what is it? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. What is it? Come on, people, I'm shocked. I was expecting another.
It's a feeling.
Okay, you're getting there? Yeah, there's a feeling.
More than a feeling.
Ooh, it's more than Boston. Now we're getting there,
I
yeah?
think it's
I was a big fan back in
it's
the
a
day.
deep sense of caring, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. This is fascinating to me that no one's answering this. I'm shocked, I really am. And the reason I'm shocked is because, Rabbi, I'm open to it also, but I'll tell you, the reason I'm shocked is because I'm sure some of my Nachlaot people, you guys, I'm going to give it to you right now.
Oh God, this is a room full of singles, how are we supposed to know?
Oh,
about it?
stop it.
Not
Stop it.
Some of us were married.
It don't matter. You know. You still should. First of all, you should know. We've discussed this before. You should know. So you're
I'm
not.
giving everybody
You're
a
not.
chance.
I give it else a chance. Yeah.
Love is not hate. It's not.
Okay. Rabbi, what do you say?
Recognizing the virtue of the other person.
Right, so it comes from Noach, and he's quoting, coming based off the Rambam, and he's saying that love is a feeling, it's an emotion, it's a feeling that one gets when they focus. I'm gonna extend the concept that you're very correct and concise. I'm gonna extend it. Love is a feeling that one gets.
I also studied by Reb Noach.
He's coming from Noach. Yeah, this is a
I'm
Noach.
still learning.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve.
Love, it's a big curve sometimes. Love is a feeling that one gets when they focus on the positive virtues of a person, place, or thing, if I may extend the concept. Think about that for a second. What will cause you to focus on the positive of a person, place, or thing? Say what you said before.
Giving.
When you give to something and you invest in it, watch how this works. When you give and invest in something, then you want to see its success. Has anyone here ever done a little, think back to when you were like school? I mean young, you were in kindergarten, primary school, reception, whatever country you're from, right? And you were in school and you did a little project. Anyone ever build something? When you were little, yes or no? You ever built something? You ever put something together? You made something?
Yeah.
And when you made it, like a science fair or whatever it is, and you think it's the best, besides that kid who built a human heart because his father's a cardiologist. But besides that, you build something. Everyone hates that kid. You guys know what I'm talking about? Are you that kid? Anyway, so you go ahead and you invest in something. You built it. So guess what? Since you invested and you built and you put so much into it, you don't want to see yourself as a failure. So you will grab onto any part of it that is positive and say, but look at that part, isn't that part amazing? Why is a good salesman a good salesman? Because he knows his livelihood depends on it. So he will make sure to go ahead and see what's good within this thing. And he will learn and spend time with. How do you love somebody? If you have to l'recha kamocha, how do you come to love people that are behemoths and chayos on the second level? A bunch of zevel, as they say in the soccer stadiums. Zevel. How do you get the thing? You're going to come to love these people. So let's think for a second. Yeah?
Yeah, but Noah cared for the animals for a year, and then his reward was that he got to eat them.
So you see from there that if you care for someone, you can eat them.
I'm saying, it's like, if you, let's say you have these horrible animals of neighbors, you don't get to eat them, You don't at the end, but he just loved them so much that then, let's say maybe they could become a part of them. Why do we eat only kosher animals? Because we understand that the blood or the life force of that thing becomes a part of us. So after taking care of the animals for a year, even though they were animals, then you can have an attachment to them where they can ingest.
I'm not sure where to go with that. Moving along. I hear what you're saying, and it's making me nervous. It's like when you go to your new neighbor and say, I'd love to have you for dinner. Thank you, Hannibal. Right? In any event, back to this point, is that when you go ahead and you invest in something, you see the positive because you want to see the positive, and then you come to love that thing. Okay. Think about someone that you really dislike. Well, only one person. Relax, people. Right? Think of someone that you dislike, you don't like. I want you to put on a piece of paper all the negative attributes of that person, all the bad things you could think of them. This was the exercise of Noah used to do. Think of someone that you love. Put all the positive attributes and things you can think of. Now let's flip it. The person that you love. Does anybody here love somebody? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes?
Yes.
Yes? That person that you love, can you think of any negative things about them?
Yes.
Probably.
What?
Probably.
Probably. So first I'll let you know, if you cannot, then I will let you know you are not in love with this person, you're infatuated with them. Because if you cannot see any negative in somebody, everything. If you're not able to see any negative in someone, it means you're blinded. You're blind. You're blinded by, you're in cloud nine, nuevo nueve, and you go ahead and you're just getting caught up with this. You're not really living, it's not really love. Everybody has faults, everybody has problems. If you're not able to see the problems at all, that means that there's something wrong with you. However, you decide to focus on the positive. Do you get that? Now let's take a look at the people you don't like at all. Are there people that you don't like that you could think of? What are the positive virtues of this person? None! That's ridiculous. You understand? You're being ridiculous. Even if you hate them, that doesn't mean they don't have positive virtues. You just choose not to look at those positive virtues. But if you were to put them down on paper, you would find something shocking. Very likely that the two people may actually be identical.
Which two people?
The one you love or the one that you hate?
Okay.
You just decided to focus on the positive of the one you love, and you decided to focus on the negative one you hate. And there's various reasons for that, which we're not going to get into right now. The ultimate concept is that it depends you, which means, ultimately, love is a choice. Love's a choice. We fell in love. There's no such thing as falling in love. There's something called falling into infatuation, falling into lust, falling into having to be paying child support for many years. But when we're talking about falling into love, that doesn't happen. You work on love, you fall into lust. So does everybody hear that? And love doesn't have to be with the spouse, whatever, with people, anybody. Work on it by taking the time to focus on the positive of the person. What's a good eitzah, a good idea, in order to help a person to be able to get to a point where they will start to focus on the positive? Do something for the person. Because when you do something for the person and you give to them, you're going to want to find a reason why you didn't just waste your time. And you'll find something positive, and when you find that positive, you'll then be able to focus on it, and when you focus on it, you'll start to feel the love. Does it make sense what I'm saying, peeps?
Yes.
Is this easy?
No.
Absolutely not. Okay, maybe it is.
No, it's not.
Fine, it's not. It's very easy in theory, but like everything in practice, it's very hard because our emotions get the best of us. But everything's wrong with them. You know, I heard a story once about a Rav who was mic'd. He was all mic'd, ready to speak somewhere. And a whole group of Hasidim came in, and it was like pushed through. And this Rav said, Chayas. A bunch of animals. But he was mic'd. So everybody heard, Chayas, Chayas, Chayas. So everybody stopped and looked. And the Rebbe of this group of Hasidim turns to him and goes, Chayas? Yeah. Aber Chayas HaKodesh! He says, yeah, beautiful Chayas. Look at that. You can take something and just spin it. It's unbelievable what we can do. It really is amazing what we can do.
He's lucky.
So the question is, do we decide to go ahead and focus on that? Do we decide to focus on something else? How much are we willing and interested in having it? Number one, you have to be interested. Now, just forget it. But even before that, let's understand. After Chikamocha is at the very least not ruining somebody. the very most, actually deeply loving them, to a point where you want to do more and be able to connect with them, because hey, we're all the same. You're really loving yourself, and you're going to end up to come together. Now, ultimately, somebody asked this question. I was somewhere. Somebody asked the following question: if the pasuk says "V'ahavta l'cha kamocha," love your neighbor like you love yourself, what if you don't love yourself? You hear? What if you don't love yourself? It's a very serious question. Because if you're not able to love yourself, you're not going to have a starting point to be able to then have a barometer to love somebody else. One who actually has a feeling like that must speak to somebody about that, to get a real understanding of who they are, to recognize the value and their worth. I'm throwing that out there. I don't know what people are going through in their lives, but that's very, very crucial, because the starting point is themselves, and then v'ahavta kamocha. But I don't love myself at all. I'm even willing to be able to harm myself in certain relationships with one. That, my friends, is very important that somebody gets that thinking. You got to speak to somebody about this, someone who knows what they're talking about. I'm sure the great rabbi will throw on you some great work here, can help you out. Well, once a person gets to that, then we start to extend a little bit. People say, if you kept it saying, I got to bust move like no one's business because my coach is going to kill me because I'm already been a little bit late. Here we go. So, we got the following idea started at the beginning. Thank the good Lord. Hold you, Hashem, kito, kilam, chasto, that is together. Nothing is free, no free lunch. We're talking about people, things, cost. In which case, thank the Lord, we got the tzaddikim. Then we got a little bit further, understanding if we have to look at the very least what it's talking about is like don't mess up somebody's business, don't mess up somebody else's spouse, understand a little further to you can love it a little more. Well, how can I do it? My neighbors are I'm thinking about a little bunch of zealous person at that point. Well, let's understand what's love. A person ultimately understands the kind of ahava is what? It's choice. You want to love someone, love them. You don't want to don't love them. It's your choice. The focus can love be a verb, perhaps I'm getting into that. Understand what we're saying here is that a person ultimately loves the feeling that one gets when they focus on the positive virtues of another person. Because your thing when you start to focus on what's going to happen, the person starts to feel depends feeling. But that feeling is called love. Where does it come from? Oh, yes, when a person goes to give to somebody, they want to make sure that it's not going to end up. They're going to be a failure with them. They don't want to be a failure with that. They want to see it succeed. They want to give them more. Oh my God, things failing, it's falling apart, it's breaking, everything's terrible. No, but I built it. Don't you see that good screw, how it's in so tight? It's just like, yes, but the thing's falling apart. Yeah, Dave, I don't like it, but look at that. Stop focusing on the negative, right? The answer is, ultimately, people, we can come to love anybody. We can come to love anybody. After the kamocha, we're all siblings, we're all family. A person comes to recognize the idea, just like our kid, we do it so extended to our brothers and our sisters, people that are around us. That doesn't mean we have to do everything for them, go out of our way, whatever, at the very least to respect them and see what's going on. And to not only feel their pain, but also feel their joy. I would love to hate you, I just have so much love in my heart that I just can't. I'll think about it later when their love starts to wear off a little. Oh, it's working, it might work, you know what I'm saying? But be careful, understand the concept a little bit more. When we start to focus on the idea, to understand what it can do for a person. Fashion, for myself, something I have to look at the action a little bit, that's going to be able to the physical, also the mental kind of the spiritual realism in this world. That's the reason things happen. We start to recognize it again. This is why these things happen. Maybe there's a research. So then we get the last idea with the throne over there. It's like the Gemara says in Kedusha, the 4th chapter in Yerushalmi of Kol Apostel, B'Muvah Kapostel. See where Ashkenaz will be Sfari. B'Mumar Gabatur. Anyone who goes ahead is disqualifying something with your own disqualification. If you could deal with you, why can't you deal with somebody else? It's because you're choosing not to, but you choose to deal with you, so choose to deal with them. You don't have kamocha, oh, that has to be checked out. But you do have kamocha, so start extending it to other people. Once you figure out what that is, then start giving towards it, start seeing the positive, you want to give more to it, it's going to be a spiral effect, continue going up. My friends, here we go. We're starting now. We just finished Mansim B'Chaseinu of Sukkot, and we're coming on now for the year. This is known as the deep and dark winters, man. When things start to get a little bit challenging and difficult and hard and dark and difficult and hard. I love when people do that and they focus on it. And it's so hard and dark and it's good luck. Like, why do I have to do that? Yes, you know what we're starting now? An amazing tekufa of bracha called rain. Amazing tekufa of geshem. Amazing tekufa, which happens all the time, by the way. I don't know if you know that, the brachas we make. An amazing tekufa that we have, what's going on now, of rain that's coming out, which is all blessing, which is continuous. Oh, but I'm wet. I tell my kids, I say, you see rain, what's rain? They go, blessing. I brainwash them good. Yep, I got them real good. I say, Muda'ani, say, Lifanacha, suckers. Right? We start to realize, my family start to concentrate. What are we looking at? We're looking at the negative. We decided to focus on the positives that's over there. So we look at the fact that things are bad, that we think that things are good, and it's totally our choice, and we should perhaps start taking those choices to not focus on the negative, to focus on the positive. Find the love you have for yourself and see to be able to transfer it to somebody else. Even though we have our own problems, we deal with ourselves and we love ourselves sometimes a little bit too much. Maybe then extend it to somebody else. They have their problems, but I'm going to focus on the good, and then what's going to happen? The love is only going to continue to grow. Any questions?